Trump will be the president of law and order. He's going to secure our borders. He's going to have the back of our law enforcement officers. This is the #1 defining issue. Going back to your first segment here, this is why the polls are rising for Donald Trump, because the people know that Donald Trump will be the president of law and order.
Well, maybe, but first he's got to get through all these indictments. Are you worried about this New York trial?
That was pretty incredible. I can't believe Maria Bartiromo, of all people, had that kind of response. Now, Donald Trump, the embodiment of law and order, is back in court today, listening to his former fix-it attorney, his former fixer, Michael Cohen, testify about the hush money illegally given to Stormy Daniels and the money paid to kill the Karen McDougal story. Now, the prosecution was able to finish up their questioning of their star witness, Michael Cohen, today. I want to do some updates on that, and then we'll go to what the defense attorneys were up to. Now, with the remainder of the prosecution's questioning, Michael Cohen doubled down on yesterday's testimony that Donald Trump was in fact in the know in regard to the hush money payment, but more importantly, in regard to the reimbursement to Michael Cohen, who, by the way, took out an equity line of credit on his own home in order to get the funds necessary to pay for the Stormy Daniels hush money. And then the allegation here and the charge that Donald Trump is dealing with has to do with him allegedly falsifying documents in order to reimburse Michael Cohen, but make it appear as though the money was meant to reimburse him or pay him for legal services, like typical lawyerly duties, But in reality, it was meant to conceal the crime that Michael Cohen had committed of breaking campaign finance laws in paying that hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Now, Cohen said Tuesday that Trump had told him to work out how he would be reimbursed with Alan Weisselberg, the then chief financial officer of the Trump organization. He said Trump reiterated that position when he met with Cohen in the Oval Office in 2017. Make sure you deal with Alan, Cohen quoted him as saying. Now, I want to just pause and say this, it's important. It's really going to be up to the jury whether they find Michael Cohen to be a credible witness, someone that is being truthful in his testimony. And so this is a bit of he said, she said type of situation. Because yes, Michael Cohen did provide some evidence, which we showed you on the show yesterday. But there might be some elements of his testimony that the jury just decides is not credible. And to be sure, and as we will talk about in a bit, the defense attorney in their line of questioning really focused on discrediting Michael Cohen so the jurors do not trust him or believe him. So Cohen also said during the questioning by the prosecution that soon after he started receiving monthly $35,000 checks from Trump after he sent an invoice for legal services rendered. So prosecutor Susan Hoffinger asked if he'd performed any legal services, right? So is this money at all for legal services? And he responds, no, ma'am. Was this invoice a false record? She asked. Yes, ma'am, he replied. So that's important testimony. Again, whether the jury believes it or not is really up in the air. He also testified that he told Trump that he would, he basically told Trump what he would say publicly at the time, which was that Trump was not involved with the payment. When the Federal Election Commission asked Cohen about the payment, he issued a statement saying, quote, I used my own personal funds to facilitate a payment of $130,000 to Daniels. Neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, either directly or indirectly. So that is relevant because there is a record of him obviously lying. And what he did on the stand today was clarify that the reason why he lied was because at the time he was still working for Trump, and he was lying at the direction of Donald Trump, who had collaborated with him on what his messaging would be. Trump told him that was good, Cohen said. Asked why he lied, he said, in order to protect Mr. Trump. And remember, at that time, when Cohen was still working for Trump as Trump's fixer, Cohen testified that he deeply admired Trump. It was almost as if he was constantly seeking Trump's validation. He wanted to make Trump happy.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Trump was even involved in tailoring more of Cohen's messaging, public messaging. Cohen said Trump had approved the statement ahead of time, and Cohen said it was both true and misleading. It was neither the Trump organization or the Trump campaign. It was Donald J. Trump himself, he said. Now, remember, Cohen has served time behind bars because of that hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, and his home was also raided. So in April of 2018, the FBI executed search warrants on Cohen's home and law office, taking his cell phones, tax records, and other documents. He said he felt his life had been turned upside down, and he felt concerned, despondent, and angry. He said he reached out to Donald Trump, who called him back and told him, "Don't worry, I'm the president of the United States, there's nothing here. Everything's going to be okay. Stay tough. You're going to be okay." Cohen said Trump reassured him that then Attorney General Jeff Sessions was in his pocket. Oops. So look, Jeff Sessions, I was not a fan of, but to his credit, he actually wasn't in Trump's pocket. And in fact, Jeff Sessions, again to his credit, recused himself during the Russia collusion investigation, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump, and that's how he soured on Jeff Sessions. Now, let's get to the defense and the line of questions coming from Trump's attorney. The defense started its much anticipated cross-examination of Michael Cohen this afternoon. And so the courtroom got real hot. Like things heated up pretty quickly during this cross-examination because the lawyer representing Trump was trying to establish a pattern of Michael Cohen lying and speaking out on social media, despite the district attorney's office asking him to stop talking about the case while the trial is ongoing. Now, sparks flew pretty much immediately. Let's take a look.
Remarkable exchange. So the first thing Todd Blanche asked Michael Cohen is, "You and I have never met?" Michael Cohen said, "Correct, we've never met." Blanche then asked, "You went on TikTok and called me," and I'm quoting here, "You went on TikTok and called me a crying little." At that point, there was an objection. The lawyers went to the sidebar and the judge upheld the objection. And I think the reason why is Michael Cohen's feelings towards the lawyer are really irrelevant. And so that objection was sustained, meaning wipe the question off the books.
So Cohen also said that he's been using TikTok to build an audience and blow off some steam. You know, we've talked about that on the show. I actually think it's a bad idea and has been a bad idea for Cohen to constantly post on social media about the case, yes, but also his absolute deep disdain for Donald Trump. Because remember, what the defense is trying to do is cut his credibility down. And the way that they're doing that is by presenting him as this bitter, former employee of Trump's, right? Who's holding a grudge and just wants retaliation. He wants payback. And so I don't know how effective the defense was today in building that kind of narrative against Michael Cohen. And you can understand why they would want to do that, considering Michael Cohen is the prosecution's star witness. But if we rely on reporting, I think it's going to be skewed. I wish there were cameras in the courtroom. I wish that we can see for ourselves how the proceedings went down today. But based on news reports, it does appear that the defense tried to cut into his credibility. I don't know how effective they were. Now, Cohen's disdain for Trump might seem super irrelevant, whether or not Trump, as to whether or not Trump committed the crimes that he's been accused of, right? Falsifying the documents. But I want you to hear from Elie Honig once more, because he's gonna explain why it's important to hear this testimony, right? So let's take a look at that.
It's about more than just, is Michael Cohen a good person or bad person? I mean, that matters, but really what this goes to is you have an intense bias in this case. You have one outcome that you've staked your professional future on. They're gonna get to the t-shirt that Michael Cohen was wearing the other day, showing Trump behind bars. And I think that's really potent cross-examination. It's frankly insulting to the jury. It's their decision. It's not up to Michael Cohen, this guy goes to jail or not. And it shows that Michael Cohen is sort of consumed by this white hot hatred for the defendant, which is fair game.
And that's what they want to get across. Reasonable doubt in the minds of at least one juror that Michael Cohen is so blinded by his hatred of the defendant that he cannot be trusted in terms of the testimony that he has given for allegedly falsifying documents.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't begrudge the defense for using that tactic. I think that's a common sense tactic to undercut Michael Cohen. And I don't think Michael Cohen did himself any favors by engaging in endless negative commentary toward Donald Trump, which makes it clear that he does, in fact, deeply despise Trump. But also, to be fair to Michael Cohen, he's already served time behind bars for the hush money payment, whereas Trump has been able to skirt responsibility and consequences for it. So I can understand where that hatred comes from, but at the same time, you gotta think of the long game, you gotta think strategically, and if you want Trump to suffer consequences, and if you want your testimony to be taken seriously, you can't come across as someone who has that white hot hatred for Trump and wants to retaliate against him, because there is some possibility that there is at least one juror who's gonna be turned off by that and might not see Michael Cohen's testimony as credible as a result.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.